Hey, everybody. Welcome again to Each on the News. We've got Michael George, Chief Executive Officer of Syncro. Everybody should probably know who this gentleman is. Starting with Continuum, a lot of stuff in the MSP community. First, actually, to actually build a, NOC and SOC as a service in a way, right? And because you realize way back then, Michael, that not a lot of MSPs were able to handle, this the heavy lifting that's required in a NOC. But so, Michael, give me a brief overview. What actually got you starting to start that Continuum, first of all?
Well, Julian, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me back. I always enjoy speaking with you, and I always enjoy addressing some of the harder questions and some of the more thorny issues in the market. So I know you always have great provocative ways of thinking about things, and I'm enjoying taking on some of that discussion today. To your specific question, back in end of 2011, we started Continuum, and you're quite right. There was something really special in what we built there. You pointed out a NOC operation, and then later we launched the very first security product in the market and brought a SOC to bear. And we did that to serve this market for what we believe to be its greatest challenge. It was then, it is now, and it will continue to be. And that is the labor and the labor costs associated with service delivery. Everybody is running around talking about trying to address the profitability of an MSP. There's always the big debate about whether it's a platform or a point solution and all kinds of things, and we should get into all of that. But the fundamental hypothesis of Continuum was if we could offload 60 or 70% of the rote mundane work that a technician was required to apply in service delivery, and did that to a low-cost outsourced geography, in our case, India, where labor is significantly less, then we gave opportunity for our MSP partner community to be highly profitable and to grow. And that's exactly what happened. We continue to produce the most profitable and the most successful MSPs in the business. And that stands true to this day. I'm proud of that record. I've been out for 5 years now after ConnectWise acquired us. And to this day, those MSPs they're the largest today and most successful in the world. So that was the hypothesis then. And
it's still true today, as you said. At the end of the day, right? I mean, you're right. You can't have humans are expensive, the processes, there's a lot of technology stack, but you've got to have humans to kind of manage all those things, right? And if you can outsource some of that, then you could then focus on acquiring new customers, doing the higher end things, and basically literally increase your productivity, which means more profitability, right? And it's right. It was true then. And I think now it's probably even more true than it was then, because they're juggling so many things. So, Michael, when you look at the MSPs today, all the things that they've got to manage, even, back then with Continuum, right? There was a lot more things that they have to manage today. Compliance issues, cyber insurance issues, et cetera, et cetera. What's life like for today's MSP, you think?
I think I would be saying on behalf of the technician community, it can be pretty miserable. It's very hard. It is really, really hard, to be in the IT services side of the business. I'm incredibly both sympathetic and empathetic to that fact. I spend a lot of time traveling, visiting with our partners in the field, sitting on the tech bench, and it is a very difficult job. It's got increasingly more difficult. We'll come back to that in a second. But it's also an incredibly underappreciated job.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I often equate it to Homeland Security. It's like you don't see these people, you don't know about this stuff. We're not sure if they're being paid well or not and everything. But the fact is if there hasn't been any significant either terrorist attack or things, and we have our own challenges within our country here. But in any of these, world economies, homeland security is an incredibly valuable but highly underappreciated job. And so I think of the technician has been dealing with a compounding complexity where now, and of the things, Julian, you just listed off 6 or 7 things, but most all of them fall into the field of cybersecurity, right? You talked about compliance, right? I mean, all these things has created a far more complex environment, compounded by the fact that we had a global epidemic, a situation where we now have a displaced workforce. So it was difficult enough to protect your environment when all your employees were sitting behind the firewall. You could do a lot of training, right? A lot of the kind of cyber training and awareness and everything else, all within the confines of an office. Well, now that everybody is in a work from home or hybrid environment, you have increased complexity because they're no longer behind the firewall. The internet is the new network, and you're trying to protect this incredibly. So it's just an incredibly difficult job. And shockingly, candidly, we're in the field. I have a high appreciation for what technicians do on a minute-to-minute, hour-to-hour, and day-to-day basis. But the world does not, and it is an incredibly underappreciated field. So anyway, therein lies a lot of the complexity with it, and why some number of people just kind of don't want to do that. It's right. It's becoming a rarefied thing, and even for those who do, it's a very complex world. So let me just stop there, because there's a couple of different paths you may want to take this down, but those are the issues at hand.
Yeah, I think you're so right. It's that I always tell people about the importance of the army, called the channel, right? That if you were to remove this, the world goes to craziness, right? I mean, always think in terms of like the world runs on tech, and the IT folks keep tech running. And once they stop keep tech, if they prevent tech from running, then what do? We can't go to hospitals, our cars, I mean, what can't we not do? We can't travel. We recently saw one vendor who had an oopsie daisy moment, when the update didn't work as they went to, I mean, airplanes got, grounded, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that was I hope was an wake-up call that shows people how dependent we are on technology these days, and why it's important. So, I mean, that's the mission, right? I mean, how do we help these channel partners, these MSPs and so on, to actually do their jobs better, right? But also, I want to say make more money, but also have a life, because they just can't sacrifice their life forever, right?
That's correct. Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry, Julian.
Yeah. So your platform, just one of the things that, of course, all MSPs, right, have is that they need a platform to organize all this stuff, like the maestro, right? You've got a lot of things going in, and you've got to figure out how to manage these things, manage a team. What are some of the things that you're seeing from your MSPs, and how they're leveraging the platform, the PSA platform you've got, and how is that helping them?
Yeah, and that's right. That's what this is all about, is how do we help them do a couple of things. One is not be so underappreciated, but be appreciated, be compensated, be right to hold the stature that they so much deserve in the community at large. And it isn't just a trophy and an acknowledgement. It comes in the form of compensation, and it comes in the form of having a life. As you said, this is more than just making money. It's also having an equitable experience in their career that includes some work-life balance, and everybody deserves that. But since you spoke about my roots and continuum, I'll bring that forward. we did just that. We, as I said, offloading 50, 60, 70%, depending on what the issues were, of issues into our knock operation, leaving really only those cases, situations, edge cases, whatever it might be, to the technician working in the continuum environment, to doing the higher value stuff, the things that might involve being integrated with the customer, being their strategic partner, being their CIO, if you will, as opposed to like that rote, mundane, grindy, repetitive work that nobody really loves to do anyway, but is necessary. And so we took that out of their hands. That's exactly what we're doing here today. And I want to keep this a little bit at a higher level and not make this so much a pitch about Syncro, other than because of my philosophy around this, as you can imagine, we have built a platform that provides the things I'm about to talk about, but I'm doing it very specifically because this is what this industry needs, to meet these demands and to be recognized and appropriately compensated for them. So, first of all, as I mentioned, you pointed out the product release that shut down airplanes, and I remember walking to my post office and seeing a handwritten sign, couldn't even get their printer to work, a handwritten sign that says cash only, we cannot take credit card payments, like at our little dinky post office in our summer, at a summer community. Just thinking about the impact of that was astronomical. And I do think people realize, like, wow, we live in a massively hyper-connected world that so many things could be affected by, this one company making this error. And I do think it put a new level of awareness into the world. But they're not always solving it the right way. Security is a very complex issue to solve. And what has happened over the years is, as I mentioned, we went into this distributed work environment. There's been a huge expansion in the MSP community. And the expansion has come not only in terms of the number of providers there are, but the number of products supporting those providers. And I would argue today that we have, if you look inside of a $2 million to $20 million MSP today, Julian, they have way too many products as part of their portfolio, right? The kind of layered things, and this does this, but not enough of that, and then this connects to that, and right. And whether it's coming from one vendor or not, I mean, the big platform vendors today all grew through acquisition. ConnectWise acquired Continuum, and 15 other things. Kaseya is an amalgamation of, that's just a big, private equity. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a holding company. They've not integrated anything, candidly. So, but it's a place, it's a marketplace to go buy all these different products and so forth. And it has just made the MSP and the technicians' lives miserable because, you have all this vendor management work. You've got all these economics. You're logging in and out of all these different, you have different operating modalities for different products, and you have layers. So you have cost and massive inefficiency. And so bringing simplicity to the equation also creates security, right? Because you don't need all these layers. When you have multiple products that think they're all doing the same thing, you have no product, right? You have lots of seams and gaps and places of great vulnerability. So we're in the business of helping unravel, right? Pull that to use a rugby, to pull the scrum back apart to see where the ball is, right? and who's got possession.
It feels sometimes like that,
It is.
Where is the ball? Where is the guy?
It totally is. It totally is. So, so I think these are really important things. This is really now, like, let's get back to basics. This is about simplification, not further complication. And this is really all about the technician and the technician's efficiency the quality of their job and their quality of life. The last thing I'll touch on there, though, is what an opportunity to be a technician in today's world, where if you're, as an MSP, if your philosophy is as I just expressed, but today, instead of having to add in an external low cost, centered knock or sock, there is a new genre of technology, and it's not new, actually, it's from the 50s, but the automation that comes from this next generation of AI gives us the capability as technicians to reduce, if not eliminate, 50 or 60 or 70% of that rote mundane work that you have to do over and over, that's repetitive and it's not valuable but necessary, right? It's just not a high value thing, but it's a necessary thing, so that me as the technician get to work on more interesting things, more complicated things, more things that give me maybe an experience with the customer, or give me an experience with some new technologies that I might want to work with. And so what we're doing here at Syncro is building that layer of automation that takes the place of, what we at Continuum, we were 1,400 people at the time we were merged, into Connect, acquired by ConnectWise. And 1,000 of them, 1,000 of those 1,400 people were based in India. So it was a lot of the knock operation and a lot of the SOC operation, that did that. But today you can do it even at a lower cost with the elimination of human error and the human costs and everything else by introducing a new level of automation.
AI automation. Michael, I always think of the cybersecurity these days like Frankenstein. They built the Frankenstein, and it kind of moves clunky, it kind of works, but no one really knows how to build it so it all works well. It's a little clunky, and you and I both know that if you build 85 pieces of a cybersecurity network platform thing, that it just takes one technician who used to run a few of those things or manage a few of those dashboards to leave, and then all of a sudden John and Frank or Jane is gone, and no one's been watching that platform for like months. So what's the point, right? It's quite complicated. So Syncro, from what I see, is that you guys are trying to take the craziness, the chaos, and give the MSP a bit of a simpler, well integrated type ways to take chaos down to something more manageable. What are some of those things that you're helping them with? Cybersecurity, other things?
So that's quite right. The way you trade our mission, it's simplicity yet powerful. And we're a born in the cloud company. So everything we've been done has been all, cloud-based. And if you look at any of the larger companies in the market today, they all have heritage. They've all legacy, right? It's Enable and ConnectWise and Kaseya and even Ninja. I know they look like the new kids on the block, but it's a 15-year-old piece of technology. I mean, it's been around for a long time. And so when this new generation of born in the cloud platforms are using modern tools and techniques and technologies, it makes all the difference in the world. And we're providing simplicity as a fresh start. It's not, we didn't have to simplify ourselves. We were never complicated. We're just new to this is a company that's only been around for a handful of years. I've been here for just a little more than a year. As you and I spoke briefly offline, Dee Zeff, who ran products for us at Continuum, is one of my partners here in this journey. Kristen Costaiola, SVP of engineering at Datto, is one of my partners here. She runs all of engineering for us. These are extraordinarily talented people that come from those very environments that did get complicated and are fresh starting with a level of UI and UX experience that's unified, right? This is, you hear companies talk about single pane of glass. I think they mean PAIN, not PANE. I mean, it's just a silly, euphemism for a simple little shell. We built from the ground up a completely unified environment, and that makes all the difference in the world. We have also introduced things like smart ticketing to bring forward like the entire history of everything you've ever worked on with the customer and that individual user in the environment, to look at, oh, I see we had this problem, Julian, a year ago. It seems to have emerged again. I'm retracing your steps. It looks like this is what you're doing, whatever it might be, right? So anyway, we have brought a level of automation that really is just focused on reducing and eliminating that rote, mundane work, and so that for the technician, there anything that you have to do multiple times, we try to eliminate that entirely from their lives and their
It's almost
jobs,
like
and
a
get
more
them
of a
those things.
modern automation. I mean, look, we all know the a lot of the current incumbent TSAs, right, have been built, decades ago, and it needs a bit of an overhaul. And I think the aspiration of all these companies is to deliver, that single pane, the real pane of glass. But the challenge is, it is difficult when you are starting from, a technology that has been developed years ago to one that's more modern. And as we all know, even that's changing even faster because now of AI, right? AI requires not just, a rewrite of software, but also it's working on a different platform, different hardware. Just the speed alone that to take advantage for the first time, hardware is an advance of software because the AI hasn't been built in yet. And so now these AI-enabled, AI-powered servers, hardware, cloud, so on, is now ready for acceleration. So if you start with a modern platform and you ensure that AI is baked in from day one, then basically you should be able to take more advantage of the power and performance of AI. Is that sort of where you guys are?
That's quite right. That's an important element to it. I would add one other dimension, Julian, that I think is important, which is that I love the book and cause myself to read it every couple of years, called Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Mm.
And it's all about how to win in these battles without going to war, or using using different alternative methods to win war, kind of a David and Goliath, right? Like, how do I do something different, even perhaps juxtaposed to the way my enemy is attacking me? And I'm using that analogy because the most important place, as you mentioned, AI can be used for even code development and a whole lot of things. But the most important place that it is being used in the world of IT today, across small businesses, which is as much under attack, if not more today, than even the large enterprise, because ransomware has proven to be so successful and so profitable. So trying to exploit $25 to $250,000 out of 10,000 small businesses proved to be far greater and more profitable than trying to get $20 million out of one. So the attack surface is the small to medium business, and AI is being used by the cyber attackers. And if we don't, I mean, you can't use human power, human ingenuity. There aren't enough people on the planet that are well versed in these fields to defend ourselves properly against these getting more and more sophisticated cyber attacks that are taking place that are AI generated. And so if we don't use those tools and technologies and perhaps even get ahead of it all, so that we can stay ahead of the attack surface, we're going to be in trouble. And so we as a company, we work very closely with Microsoft in particular. I mean, Microsoft in the world of software, as you well know, 98% of the operating systems that technicians work in is Microsoft. I mean, we're all working in a Microsoft environment, number one. Number two is that there isn't another software company on the planet that has invested more in native AI technologies than Microsoft. They have a $13 billion investment in open AI. And, they're not just using it for code development and other things, but perhaps one of the most important places that we will see effective technologies emerge is going to be in the cybersecurity, cyber defense space. And so these are places that we're placing our bets and working on behalf of the channel, to equip them with the tools and the technologies that are, coming from the best and the brightest, right? This isn't some offshoot, all these companies pop up with, something.io or .ai and all this great stuff. And it's lovely. And there's lots of innovation and everything else that's coming from it. But, the bet we're making is on Microsoft as a company. And, they are the largest cybersecurity company in the world today. I know you have Palo Alto Networks and CrowdStrike and SentinelOne, coming in, number 2, 3, 4, or whatever. But Microsoft is by far, the largest cybersecurity company, and they're also the most invested in AI. So it's a pretty smart place to place your bet, and that's what we're bringing to the market for our MSP channel, partners and customers, direct to IT and otherwise.
Well, if you're going to bet on somebody, you want to bet on Microsoft. I mean, look, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, though, but most people don't understand or even realize that Microsoft is the largest cybersecurity company on planet Earth. And they should kind of know that as well, because, is their platform that's being attacked the most, right? So who better else to figure out how to defend that than them, right? It's interesting. To wrap it up here. I mean, so what I'm seeing here, Michael, is that you guys understand, right, the challenges, the headwinds facing these MSPs, and at the end of the day, you want to reduce the amount of productivity, their time, increase their productivity, so they could just do a lot more with less, so they could think a little bit better to help their customers navigate AI, navigate competitive issues, expand, etc. So there's a lot of other things that these customers need to do, and they need to figure out how technology is going to help them get there. So if you look at, Michael, the next generation, if you will, of MSPs, and we put on our crystal ball, there, and figure out where we're headed, what do you think the future MSPs, and I'm not looking at far out, I'm talking next year, 2 years, 3 years, where must MSPs place bets moving forward to remain relevant?
It's a super great question, because, we think about the constituent that we want to serve, right? That we're building our tools and our platform for, and it's exactly to the question you asked, which is, what does that MSP of the future look like, right? So, number one is from an organizational perspective, let's start there. And you don't have to be that big to start to get organized in a way where you understand the importance of the separation of sales and services. In other words, if you don't have dedicated sales effort, a dedicated go-to-market effort, and it's hard, like being a salesperson selling to small businesses it's a difficult job, right? You're trying to displace everybody. you're selling to somebody who already has one of those things, right? Right? Somebody, a 9-chair dentist office, a 22-person law firm, it doesn't mean just name it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever
Yeah.
those businesses are out there, in order to be a business you as an MSP want to serve, they have a provider. However, the change vector has never been greater, because the biggest change vector, the biggest reason why a end customer is willing to change their MSP is because of a cybersecurity incident. And the number of incidences are so high and they're so on the rise that all you need to do is be there, be present, and solve a problem for the end customer that they have. And so this is the time to get out there. This is the time to market and to sell into the small to medium business as an MSP, number one. But you can only do it if you aren't like trying to work on something for somebody 1 minute and then trying to sell something the next. You need a division of labor and you need a dedicated sales force. It can even be a sales force of one, Julian, but it needs to be a dedicated, effort. So that's an important part of the organizational construct. And then from a technology perspective is to decouple and decomplicate uncomplicate your tech stack. The tech stack is overly complicated today, layers upon layers and things upon things and everything else. And, it's crazy. And I hear, companies in the space that talk about, oh, we're reducing our price or we're putting together this bundle. And it's lovely. I mean, everybody appreciates a discount on the surface price, but you're very familiar with the concept of total cost of ownership at number one, and also effectiveness of the product is really what matters. And the effectiveness that matters is take a look at the profit and loss, the P&L statement of an MSP today. If more than 10 or 12% of it is your tools, you have a whole different problem. But solving a problem, getting a 10% or 20% discount on the thing that's only 10% of your total operating budget doesn't matter compared to the number one thing on your P&L, which is your labor costs. And if you can, as we are focused on, reducing the labor costs, reducing the amount of time and effort it takes to do these things that I've been talking about, we can reduce that by 20 or 30 or 50%. Think about, and again, I know I'm talking numbers. I should put up the spreadsheet for you, but I'm just answering your question. But any MSP watching this broadcast, watching this podcast, go back and stare at your own P&L, and you're going to see that 70%, 75% of your operation costs is in your labor. That's the thing to address, and do so through automation. And the automation, the simplicity, the unification that I talked about is designed, very much to improve the efficacy of technicians' work, where it appears on the value chain. It should be valued, and it is. It's incredibly valuable work. But also in the quality of the life they get to lead, because they're not, again, doing all this rote work. And for the business owner, the MSP, business owner themselves, they should be thrilled because, again, if I can affect by 30 to 50% my labor costs, and it's not because I'm going to lay people off, it's because I'm going to get more customers, right? I'm going to get more customers and not have to hire 20 more people. I can scale exponentially, but I don't have to go and hire exponentially either. I can use, and my technicians are now empowered and emboldened with tools that give them leverage, that create, force multiplier factors for them to be that much more effective, that much more efficient, and to provide that much more coverage, and do so and get to go home at 5:00 at night. So.
Well, those are good marching orders, Michael. So if I heard you right, one, you better be doing something in cybersecurity, because that's going to make or break your future. Second, you better be able to articulate your story really well. You can't sell people water if they're not thirsty. You know what I mean? But if they're hungry for something else, right? Maybe that's going to be your angle. So you have to have a sales team or person dedicated to that. And the game is really about reducing your cost, right? And you don't want to, no one's going to lay people off because you can't hire them. So it's difficult just to hire people these days. But if you can do a lot more with less and reduce the workload on these people, so you can actually not just improve your productivity, but and this may be even more important, is the output, the actual outcomes becomes better. You're better able to protect your customers better. You're better able to deliver the services faster. You're better able to get in and out without causing a problem faster, which means your satisfaction rates for both your customers goes up. Your satisfaction rate, or let's call it the happiness factor for your staff, goes up because they don't have to do all the running around. So I think that's a really cool blueprint for the future of an MSP. Mike, I'll let you wrap it up with the last words there, my friend. I hope I got the summary right, but what do you think?
I think you nailed it. It is a security first industry today, and there is no such thing as an MSP without the other S in there. It's an MSSP world today. You have to have security. It's just a fact. And number one. Number two, to your point, you can't sell water to somebody that's not thirsty. But if you are present and and there is awareness about who you are and what you do, you can count on those people that you have been calling on, that have you been selling newsletters to, that you made a visit for. You can count on them having an incident with their existing provider. It's going to happen, and you want to be there with that jug of water when they do get there.
They will get
when that
thirsty
incident
at some
happens, because they're going to. That's exactly right. That well is going to run dry somewhere, and you want to be that one, and be at the ready for them. And that's exactly right. Everything that you said around, the technicians' lives and happiness, job satisfaction, gratification will come to the technician when, again, you get out of that. It's always that rote, mundane stuff that nobody really cares to do, but it's a necessary evil to the job. And if you can get rid of it by using modern automation tools and technology, your efficacy goes up, your value goes up, your credibility goes up, your job happiness and everything else, goes up with it. So these are all the watchwords of the modern MSP. And that is you asked earlier on, what does the MSP of the near future look like? What is the right, company, in this category look like? And it's security first. It's simplification of their stack, their technology stack, and its automation in the hands, empowering not to eliminate, but just the opposite, to empower their technician.
There you go. Well, folks, take it from someone who knows the game, and of course, building a platform, not just to talk the talk, but to help you walk the walk. So that's the whole point of this whole thing, right? It's great to say opinions of where the world goes, but to actually build things to help people get there from here is where the game is. Michael, it's been a pleasure as usual. Keep us posted how things are coming along. More to come, I'm sure. And the website for folks to learn more is syncromsp.com, I believe.
Correct.
Got it. Cheers. Have a great day.
Julian, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, to you and to your audience. I always grateful for these opportunities and want to share our thought leadership and do everything we can to help make, the MSP channel wildly successful. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Cheers.